the impact of tourism on host communities. A central question in tourism studies centres on how the development of tourism impacts the host community. And much of this debate is focused especially on whether the effects of tourism are beneficial or not to the host community. This presentation provides a brief introduction to the host community and the positive and negative impacts of tourism, but primarily serves to identify core texts and other academic sources for use ahead of live synchronous seminars and also for student use when they engage in their own self-directed learning. The term host community is commonly used in tourism literature, although you may see them referred to as the local, resident or destination community. The host community is heterogeneous, and this means that they are diverse in character. So in addition to obvious variations like gender and age, a host community is likely to have individuals and groups with several different value positions, political persuasions, and crucially, attitudes towards tourism. So the host community can include both passive recipients of tourists or those who are actively engaged in the provision of tourism, including its planning or management. Now, the suggestion seems to be that the host community is all those people who live within a tourist destination. However, as the figure on screen highlights, the community in any given area are diverse. And this means that in reality, there are always several host communities rather than a single host community. Now, in accepting the heterogeneous nature of host communities, tourism scholar John Swarbrick subdivides the host community into those included on screen. Now, to ensure the effective participation from the host community in any given tourist destination, it's necessary for other tourism stakeholders to understand and embrace the heterogeneous nature of community. A positive host community attitude towards tourism and tourists is essential to sustainable tourism development, as the host community are one of the key tourism stakeholders. Now, it's therefore possible to conceptualise a continuum of tourist host encounters based on the nature of contact and also subsequent host perceptions. This is emphasised in the figure on screen. At one end of the continuum, you have tourists and hosts who purposefully come into contact within a commercial exchange setting. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you have encounters that are not purposeful. So tourists and locals who are involuntarily sharing the same space. Now, impacts are key factors to any discussion of the planning and management of tourism, and it's important to note that impacts of tourism are not the same for each host destination and each host community. They will vary widely within and between the communities, and the impacts can be perceived as positive or negative, and they can be differentiated by way of the triple bottom line. So the content included on these slides includes examples of economic impacts of tourism to the host community, environmental impacts, and then the socio-cultural impacts as well. Now, the key idea of sustainable tourism is that harmony or balance should be sought between the needs of the visitor, the place, and the host community. And as you can see here from the definitions I've included on screen, both the industry and academia recognise the host community within their definitions of sustainable tourism. And the holistic approach to the UNWTO's Sustainable Development Goals can be attributed to the inclusion of all of the tourism stakeholders, including the host community. Now, key tourism texts that you should consult include Mason 2020, Sharpley 2018, specifically Chapter 11, and Swarbrick 1999, also Chapter 11. And then some recommended reading of journal articles include Brunt and Courtney 1999 and Sharpley 2014. If you're looking for some more intellectual stimulation, then I advise that you consider Doxey's Iridex, which is a framework that's used to think about host responses to tourism. Additionally, I've created an intellectual stimulation mobile worksheet that you can access via Google Docs or via the QR code on screen, which demonstrates some useful questions surrounding the impacts of tourism, and also provides some resources and some useful documentaries for you to watch to extend your learning.